Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Tales from the Core. As always, your host, Dirty Mike Francis. Slider is on a hiatus, so won't be joining us, unfortunately, today, but it's all good because we have another really cool ass Marine who I met back September 27th on the USS Intrepid up in New York City. Retired Marine Corps Gunnery Sergeant Corey Louton.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, Mike.
Yeah, man, it was a cool way that we went about meeting. I was laying there last night trying to remember, like, how the hell did we meet? Did we both have like Marine Corps lapel pins? Or I know I did.
Yeah. We both had our Marine Corps lapel pins, and we sat down next to each other right in the front row, and just kind of started shooting the shit. And you saw my pin, I saw your pin. We started chatting it up, and then you went up and introduced the speaker for the fund to come up and talk on stage. And then after that, we just kind of hit it off. We just had a couple drinks and started chatting.
Yeah, it was one of the coolest networking events I'd ever attended. The event Judson Capital, for any of you who don't follow, I was there representing our app Shakker, which, as always, still is free to go download. You can connect with myself. You can connect with Corey, a bunch of other cool people on there, better than LinkedIn. And they asked me if I would introduce Simplifying America's Fund. And, you know, Corey, as Marines do, like when we get in an environment, it's like we're always looking around like, okay, who's got our back? Who
can I trust?
Yeah. And so he was cool enough, for anybody that's seen the video of me up there talking, speaking, he sat next to me. He recorded that video. So, I think you said something like, I was going to try to snap a couple dick pics or something.
So be careful, you're handing me a phone. You give any Marine a camera and say, hey, can you do something really nice for me? Be like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's never, if you hand a Marine a phone, expect more than you bargained for whenever you're getting it back. That's for sure. But yeah, man, that was awesome. You got that video for me. That was greatly appreciated. And then, dude, we hung out. I remember we took the stairwells up through the ships and stuff, and made it to the top deck and had a really, really cool networking event. And I guess we'll do it out of order a little bit, since that's how we're discussing it. You were there representing your fund, so we'll go a little out of order and just talk about what you're doing
absolutely.
now.
Yeah, thanks. So I was there with my business partner representing our fund, Solid State Capital, which is a fund of funds that takes an LP's investment that wants to invest passively, and we diversify that investment through multiple real estate asset classes and multiple markets with multiple operators. So that investors' capital is truly diversified, where if one deal goes south or one operator gets hemmed up or something, that entire investment's not gone. It's diversified. So my partner and I were there meeting and networking, and turned out to be, like you said, one of the best events I've ever been to. It was really well curated, really well put on, high quality, high class individuals that showed up. Is definitely look forward to the next one.
Are you going to Santa Clara for the next one?
I'm going to try to get out there. I'm not 100% that I'm going to be able to make it, though.
Yeah, we're all set to be out there again, which
nice.
Judson Capital is the name of the event. If you're an entrepreneur, fund manager like Corey, like myself, or even if you are someone that likes to invest, because they had, I want to say the ratio to that event, the very, very unique event. It was about 80% people from family offices, venture capital that are looking for new ideas to invest in. And then you had people like myself with startups. Yeah, managers like Corey with funds, and just super unique networking event. So, you can connect with myself, connect with Corey. We can put you in touch with the people if that's something that you're interested in. But yeah, Shakker was the official networking app of the event, and it was super cool. One of the coolest things like I've ever got to do, and I'm looking to see how they top it whenever we're out at Santa Clara for the Super Bowl. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm hoping I can make it.
Yeah, it'd be awesome, man. I had a talk with Daru, who pretty much throws that thing together, and they do just such an incredible job of throwing that together, and locked everything in for the next one. So, the Super Bowl, we did one down here we went to like the hospitality houses in South Beach whenever the Super Bowl was in Miami in 2020. And the networking, the people we met, it's incredible. You know, I think when probably the vast majority of people look at a sporting event like that, they think, oh, sports. But then there's a ton of people like us that are there that are doing the networking that
100%.
Yeah. Like 5 years later, I'm still working with this guy that he does all the licensing deals for the NHL, MLB, NFL.
Oh, that's awesome.
And met him at a networking event. So, and that's where we met. And now we were just chatting about business stuff on a call. What was that, last week?
Yeah. Yeah. It was last week that we were on call.
So then we started talking about our careers. And for those of you that, follow the show, or if you're new to the show, the podcast, I really love hearing about the parts of the Marine Corps and stories from people who got to do things and experience things that were outside of the realm of just, combat infantry deployment. Because for some people that might be exciting when we talk about it, but for us, it was our life. So it doesn't seem so exciting. And I think you even said something on that phone call, like similar to what I just said about when you're in, the grass is always greener. You feel like what you're doing is boring, but then you and I meet and we talk about the grunt stuff and we talk about the aviation stuff. And it's like, dude, that's so cool. Like some of the shit you were telling me about was like just super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the epitome of complacency, right? Because when you're doing a job, maybe the first week or so, you're blown away. Oh, I got a new job at an office on Wall Street or in the Marine Corps or wherever, and you're excited about it. But after it becomes the grind every day in and out, you don't pay attention to any of that crap. Like you're just, I'm showing up to go to work. At the tail end of my career, I'm sure we'll get to it, but I got my badge to go into the White House. Never in a million years did I think, when I was 18 years old going in the Marine Corps, 19, 20 years old going in the Marine Corps, that Corey Louton would have a badge to go into the White House whenever the hell he wanted. And the first couple times I was thrown back like, holy crap. And then for 7 years that I did that, it was just another day at the office until I was about to retire. Then it was like, oh man, I got to take this in because this is probably never going to happen again. So, I think that goes for any job. And then when we started talking, the things that you did in the infantry that maybe the first couple months you thought were awesome, and then after it turns into the suck, then it's no longer awesome. Like, this just is crap, man. This is what I signed up for. I didn't sign up to clean and drill and go over the same crap every day in and out. But I mean, we all take different paths, and we can learn from each other's paths and really get an appreciation for what the other person went through.
Well, I feel like if it's anything like my experience, since you've been out, you look back and maybe have even a greater appreciation, because when you're in it, you don't really grasp the magnitude of what it is that you're doing.
That's correct. Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. Especially, I've been out for 4.5 years now, about 4.5 years. And this year, the 250th Marine Corps birthday, I'd gone since 2018, 2019 without going to a Marine Corps ball. And then I reached out to some friends and I was like, I'd like to attend a ball, especially for the 250th. And they invited me down to Quantico to Virginia for the HMX ball, which was awesome. But in thinking about it leading up, you really start reflecting back to, one, wow, I did accomplish a lot when I was in the Marine Corps. And two, where the hell has the time gone? Like,
yeah,
I was watching your most recent episode, and you guys were talking about being in Iraq 20 plus years ago. I was going, holy crap, it has been over 20 years. Oh shit. Like, it's pretty wild how fast the time goes. And some of those memories, I'm sure you feel the same way. You look back and it's like it happened yesterday. It's very clear, very crisp. The relationships, the brothers that you were there with, the camaraderie. It's like the hair stands up on my neck when I think about certain memories, because you can taste the dirt in your mouth. It's pretty intense.
It's the only thing I've done in my life where, people talk about like close your eyes and picture it and this, that, and the other thing. It's like the only thing in my life that I've been a part of where I can picture it clear as day, like eyes wide open, even. I don't, it's just some of the things. And then what's crazy is, some of the things are so etched in those memories. And then you talk to guys and share stories, and they tell you about something that you were doing or you were involved in. And you're like, I don't remember that at all. Like, are you sure? Are you sure it was me? And they're like, yeah, it was you. You were there. And
Yep.
it's the dynamic of how crystal clear some things are remembered, and then you can have been somewhere and done something. And I want to say even that came up when you and I were talking last week as well, where when you got with some guys and we're sharing stories, and it's like, man, I forgot all about that, or it sparks a memory of something else that you guys did.
Yeah,
And
I kept. I was telling you about that little journal that I kept when we were in Iraq.
yeah,
So we got to Iraq in 2004, and during the battle in Najaf, um, when the Marine Corps took over the policing activities down in Najaf from the Army, picked a fight with the leader down there, and combat operations kicked off. We went down there, and for whatever reason, I had that little green monster that we take notes in my pocket. We got back from the first flight we did, and I was just like, I got to write this down. Like that was intense. That was the first time I'd ever done my job in combat. So writing down notes, then it turned into a journal, and then for the next like 6 months, I just wrote in it every day. And fast forward 20 years, me and the guys I was flying with, we did a podcast, and they were bringing things up. I was like, you know what? Let's reference the journal. It's in writing. And all three of our memories were shot. We all remembered it in a different way, different aspect. And then as soon as we looked at it, he goes, I said, no, I wrote down the time. It was this day at this time that we did this. I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe that. So yeah, it's pretty wild because the memories were still there. We were just kind of out of order with when it happened, but the actual event was spot on for all three of us.
yeah, that's in hindsight, right? Like pictures, video, like even though like back when we were in like in the early days, like digital cameras were super new. So a lot of the pictures I have are, we took those disposables, and you hope you get a good shot of something
Yeah.
cool. But then, yeah, it's like you look back to guys like Eugene Sledge, who kept notes in the Bible and his New Testament. And it's like that diary is something when you brought it up, I'm like, man, that would have been such an incredible idea. If anybody has family that they sent letters to, you can always, because letters are, you can turn those into a journal also. I know my family kept all mine, and at some point I'd like to do a compilation, put it together, and kind of go through it like you did with your buddies, and just relive and think about the events that took place, just refresh those memories.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So
My wife still has all of our letters. Her and I were dating when I went into boot camp, and then we got married within 18 months of me graduating. And she kept every letter from boot camp through deployments through everything. It's pretty wild.
man,
There's a box. I couldn't believe that she kept all of it. I was like, that's crazy, but it's cool because our youngest son is 15. I was showing him some of the letters, and I had to read it first. Like, hey, you don't want to read this one here. And he was reading it going, Dad, your writing just like starts scribbling down the page. I was like, well, that's what happens when you go 4 days without sleep. You all of a sudden start hallucinating and you just fall asleep while you're writing. He goes, is that real? Absolutely, it's real. It's on the paper. Like, look at it. So yeah, it's pretty cool to be able to go back and look at them.
so 20 and a half years. What year did you join?
So I went into the late entry program in September of 2000.
Okay.
It was right before the Cole bombing. Yeah, I remember it's like maybe less than a month before the Cole bombing that I finally signed the contract and stepped into the Marine Corps and decided I was going to do it. It's a pretty funny story. Growing up, I knew nothing about the military. my dad was really adamant about not letting any recruiter paraphernalia come into our house. And I went to college for a year and a half at New Mexico State, at New Mexico State University for a year. One of the guys in my fraternity, he had just gotten out of the Marine Corps, and got out as a sergeant after 4 years, and he was a scout sniper. So all of a sudden I started hearing a lot of stories from him, a lot of fun shit that he did, a lot of terrible things that he had to go through. But this was in 1999. So it was pre-Iraq, pre-Afghanistan. A lot of the stuff that he did, he would on Muse, but it's all training at that point. And so fast forward another year, I moved down to Texas. I'm turning wrenches in a what's called Woods Fun Center, building up jet skis, dirt bikes, quads, that kind of stuff. And two guys that worked there, they were in the Marine Corps. So we all kind of started talking. And one day I went to pay my rent, and I went to the wrong place, went to like a mailbox, et cetera. And I went to the wrong address, and there's a Marine recruiting office right next to it. And I was like, why not? And I walked in there. Clearly I didn't look clean cut, because the recruiter looked at me and said, "Can I help you? Are you lost? What do you need?" Like, I thought you guys were trying to get numbers. And they're like, "Not from you." You
Wow.
look like you're lost. So I was like, wow, that's saying something about how I'm dressed. All right, noted. It turns out that recruiter knew my friend that I was in a fraternity with. The two of them had deployed together multiple times. So I was like, wow, what a small world. So that sparked a conversation, and I kept going back down there. There's only a couple blocks from my apartment, and I slowly started getting like, tell me more. And finally they said, "Look, we're not looking for friends. If you want to enlist and join the Marine Corps, we can have a serious conversation. Otherwise, you need to stay out of the office. Like, this isn't a tea party. Like, get the hell out of here." It's like, I kind of like their bluntness. This is pretty awesome. So that fast forwarded to I want to join the Marine Corps. Signed up, and my original contract was for security forces. I told them I wanted to be on like a fast team, and they're like, "All right, yeah, we can do that." And 6 months later, my mom and my now wife, after going back and forth and losing their minds, finally got my recruiter to take me to lunch, and the three of them sat me down, and my recruiter sold me on aviation option. Go into aviation. It's a little bit longer of a contract. You'll have a good job option when you get out of the Marine Corps. You'll get to fly in helicopters. You'll do cool shit, this, that, and the other. It's like, all right, sounds good. And my initial MOS was not that. So that didn't work out as I planned. I think I ended the Marine Corps with 6 MOSs by the time I got out. So I bounced around. I think the theme of my life, and my wife reminds me, is it's never enough. I get bored with something and I want to find something else. I want to keep pressing. I want to try this. I want to try that. So yeah, that's the beginning of it all. I went to boot camp in May of 2001, right after my brother's wedding. I wanted to go in January, go to his wedding as his best man in my blues.
Yeah.
He was afraid that I wasn't going to make it back for his wedding. Hindsight, I think he just didn't want me to look better than him, because once you're in blues, you take the show. So I went to MCRD San Diego in May of 2001 and graduated August 24th, 2001.
Damn. So what is that? 17 days later? So I guess were you in MOS school when 9/11 happened?
I was checking into MCT on 9/11.
Yeah.
So I did 10 days of leave and maybe some PTAD, I think. And I had some friends that had joined the Navy and the Marine Corps right after high school. They were stationed in San Diego. I flew out, stayed at their place in Poway, just south of Pendleton. And I got up, was pressing my camis, getting ready to go check in MCT, turned on the news, saw the first tower in flames. I was like, what is this? Like, I thought they were making a movie. I was like, what the hell? And then I watched a second plane hit the tower, and I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. And then everybody in the house, their phone started ringing. One of the Marines was on terminal leave, and he refused to answer his call. And I was, at the time, I'm brand new PSC. I'm like, what? Why don't you answer your call? And then fast forward 4 years ago, I know why you didn't answer your phone. You're like, I'm out of here, man. I already got screwed enough for the last 5 years. So, and then that was really, the end of peacetime as we knew it for the next 20 plus years.
So what was that day like? You said you woke up, you're pressing your camis, getting ready to check in. Then, did you still go and check in? What was everything like on that day?
It was wild. So it was the first time I went onto a military base that wasn't MCRD, and the line was so long to get onto base. There was Cobras and Hueys flying at 50 feet around the perimeters. There were tow gunners up on hills. There were cat teams lined up on the perimeters with 50 cals. I mean, it was pretty intense. Finally got up to the gate. My buddy was driving me on that. He was on terminal leave. So he's just like cruising around like, nah, I don't need to go to work today. I'm on leave. And of course, everybody's getting recalled back to the base. Pull up. I'm in my alphas. Open up the trunk. They go back. I got my sea bag, nice, neatly packed and sitting there. They opened it up, just dumped it right in its trunk, like sifting through my crap. And I was like, man, I thought boot camp was over. And the guy was like, this isn't normal. Like, trust me, it's not normal. So finally got to MCT, to the School of Infantry, checked in. And of course, everybody's starting to freak out. I mean, this is the day of. People are calling their families, crying, freaking out. My dad was pissed. He was like, I knew it. We're going to go to war, and they're going to change your contract. You're going to be in the infantry. You're going to, thinking to myself, if one were only so lucky, because at the time, of course, I'm 20 years old. Like, that's what I want to do. But obviously no one's MOS has changed. The Marine Corps just kept going the same way it always does, because the Marine Corps prepares for war every day. So when this happened, it was just like business as usual. We're just now no longer training for what if. We're training for, sorry, my computer all of a sudden freaked out on me. We're not training for the what if. We're actually training for the here and the now, because it is happening. So it was pretty wild. Changed. I would like to imagine, hindsight, I know that the training was completely different than it was for anybody before our class, because it was no longer, if this happens, it has happened. And there's no question you guys will be going to a combat zone. We don't know where yet, but you're going to combat. So train for the real thing. So it was a lot easier to put your head in that space. Like, I need to lock in here. This is no shit.
Yeah, we've got a very dear friend of ours, Michael Sylvester. His story, he was I want to say he was over in Kosovo or something with the 8th Marines whenever 9/11 happened, and he had orders to the drill field, and 9/11 happened, and he's like, "Ooh, I'm staying here." Like, it's funny to hear his story, because he's always talking about, for 4 years, like you said, you're training for the what if, and then that's a fucked up Marine way to say it, right? Like, finally it happened.
Finally, I get to do my job. It's like, no.
You just have to reel yourself back in sometimes. I mean, it was obviously a horrible fucking tragedy, but that's the thing, though, is that we are there to respond to horrible tragedies with force. And so now, I mean, a lot of people joined the Marine Corps because they wanted to be part of that response. And you had a guy who had joined to be part of that response when it was needed. And now he's being told, nope, like, you're still going to the drill field. So just like you said, being changed to infantry and all these different things. We had a moment, and I still don't know if this is real or not. I'd love to hear if there was any fact to this. And I need to call up my DI buddy, Mike, because he was there in Paris Island when I got there in 03. So I was February to May of 03. And there was a point right before we went to the rifle range. And you know how they like to screw with you in boot camp. They always do.
Yeah.
But they took all of the 03s that were in that company, and we had a meeting with the first sergeant. I don't think that shit normally happens. His message to us was, with the invasion of Iraq kicking off and current ongoing operations in Afghanistan, that once we qualled with the rifle, which was week 5 or week 6, boot camp could possibly be over for us, being sent out to the School of Infantry and then onto the fleet subsequently, if the Marine Corps needed the numbers. Now, that didn't happen. We did the full 13 weeks. I'd really love to know, was that like a bullshit game that they like to play in boot camp, or is that like that could have legitimately happened?
That's a good question. I mean, look back at World War II, and that's exactly what they did. They're like, okay, can you tie your boots? Can you put on your uniform? Can you shoot a gun? Grab your pack. You're going to Hawaii to train to climb a volcano. Like, yeah. What? All right. So, but that's an interesting question. I'd love to know the answer, because I have buddies that were drill instructors also, and some of the best stories come from drill instructors. I mean, they have such creative minds on how to make people's lives miserable. Like, I admire them.
I was on the last podcast I was just on, our buddy Justin Kramer on his former Action Guys podcast. And it's so funny because I said something like, there's no part of me that regrets getting out and doing what I've done, the path that I'm on. But there is this part of you that's like, man, would it have been cool to go to the drill field? And he was like, fuck no, dude. Like, are you kidding me? And you and I discussed this last week. We're like, well, what's cooler than being a Marine is being the one that makes Marines. Like, that's cool as shit. And like you said, the games, just the creative mind, the twisted things that they come up with. And when you look at it, at least there was times, sure, where in boot camp, maybe the things didn't have training value or training purpose. But when you look at the majority of the things that we did, there was a purpose. Like, there was actual training value, things that stuck with you. And I think the biggest is just that instant willingness, obedience to orders.
Absolutely. 100%.
Marines we are so good at executing. And when given a directive, we're really, and I think that skill, I talked about it a lot last week, that skill transfers over into like what you're doing. Now, we'll get into it maybe a little bit more, the transition you made getting out into the investment fund space and things of that nature. But I mean, I know for me, with like running Shakker, like you don't know what you don't know. So surrounding yourself with really good people that have that experience and that knowledge, when they tell you to do something, we're incredibly good at executing and moving forward with that objective.
Yeah, I agree. And something else that, like, jumping ahead a little bit about transition, I found when I got out of the Marine Corps, failure, like I had an outlook on failure, like I can't fail. Like, oh my God, what if I screw this up? What if I screw that up? Because coming from my previous career, failure could mean the death of somebody. It could mean, because of you, a mission isn't successful. It doesn't get launched. We don't get the bad guy. We don't bring good guys home. We don't, like, a number of things, right? So failure, it was drilled into us in boot camp. If you fail, we're going to make it as uncomfortable for you as humanly possible and make you feel that big and you're insignificant to everybody, because if you can't do the mission, then what are you doing here? And when I got out, the first 6 months or so, I had to go into the transition program where I took an internship, and I was trying to learn a new system. I was fear of failure, screwed up once, and then nothing happened. I was like, that's all right. No big deal, man. Like, just figure it out and get it done. I guess, like, it's supposed to be done by Friday. I didn't get it done by Friday. They're like, have it done by the end of the month. Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, like, this is a new world. Oh, now I'm figuring this out. So, yeah, I still look back at boot camp and I'm like, there's times that I was like, they're just screwing with us. They're screwing with us. But I look, and especially being a father of 3 boys, I know that there's times when my kids think that I was just screwing with them, but there's a purpose behind all of it.
Right.
I did not want them to be the weak ones in society. I did not want them to have their boss correct them or their teacher correct them and them get teary eyed and be like, you yelled at me. It's like, unless you felt it in your chest and your ass puckered, you didn't get yelled at. All right. If you don't feel the boom of the bass in someone's voice in your chest, you're not getting yelled at. You're just being talked to sternly. That's the fact of the matter.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
people don't understand that. So, and then one of my gunnies, when I was deployed with HMM 166, he was the flight line chief, Ronnie Cantrell. He had just gotten off the drill field and he came to take over flight line as a gunny. And the stories that he would tell us, and then he would, as a sergeant at the time, and he would tell us all like, hey, you can't treat your lance corporals and your corporals like this. And we're like, what? This is coming from a drill instructor? He goes, no, there has to be a training purpose behind everything you do.
Yeah.
Okay. He's like, so I don't know if you're familiar with an airfield, but you got pad eyes where you would chain down aircraft to the deck. So it's just a hole in the concrete and there's a metal loop that comes over. Well, you're walking out there, rain, wind, you get leaves in there, mud in there, people spitting their dip in there, like all kinds of, it's just a cesspool of nastiness in those pad eyes. One of my Marines screwed up. I get a Dixie cup and a fork, plastic fork, break it in half and go clean out the pad eyes. Master Guns comes over. You can't do that. That's hazing. I'm like, no. They're cleaning the FOD out of the pad eyes, and I'm giving them something that is easy to control it with a little Dixie cup so it doesn't get spread all over the place. And he was like, you're one of Gunny Cantrell's Marines, aren't you? I was like, yeah. I am. Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. So, but that goes back to boot camp. Like everything that we did, you get yelled at for being too slow to make your rack. You get yelled at for your tidy whities aren't folded just right. Your name's not stamped on them. Everything, it gets into that repetition because, as you know, when you get in theater, like you don't have time to try to straighten shit out. Everything has to be muscle memory to get done immediately. And you don't have time to dick around with the small stuff so you can accomplish the actual mission.
Yeah. And that attention to detail, like you said a minute ago about our choices, our actions could mean somebody's life. And that goes down. I mean, geez, we could probably talk about that for like 10 minutes because that goes down such another deeper rabbit hole of, like with relationships and military veterans and combat veterans being, quick to being upset or angry when things happen that aren't life threatening. But that's just, it's so ingrained in us that I use the term a lot of times like first nature. Like the way that we are, the things that we do, the things that we think, they're not even second nature, they're first nature. Like to this day, I have an ongoing joke with one of my former platoon sergeants that my room, he was brand new. He came from the basic school. So teaching officers, right?
Yeah.
And he was a hard ass too, man. I mean, I love the dude to death. We have hour-long conversations whenever we get to talking, but I had that room perfect. I'm like, there's no way this man is going to find anything wrong on the room inspection. And when I had cleaned the microwave, I guess I had unplugged it, cleaned it and then plugged it back in. And I didn't set the time, and everything in that room was perfect except for the time.
Yeah.
And that little thing, and it wasn't like it didn't lead to anything crazy. It was just like fail. It was a fail because the room wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
And that little thing, that little attention to detail, literally when people spot IEDs or det cord or things, looping things together, pressure plates. It's that littlest, smallest thing that, hey, something's not right, something's out of place, that could mean somebody's life. So,
Yep.
so yeah, let's because when you first joined the fleet, I love your story. You didn't just kind of be one of those disgruntled Marines that got out after 4 years. Like, you weren't really digging what you were doing, and so you did something about it.
Yeah. So when going back to when my recruiter convinced me to go aviation, he's like, "Hey, if you don't like your job, you can do what's called a lateral move, and you can just go do another job." I was like, "Oh, well, I had no idea that existed." All right. So fast forward, go through MCT, graduate, go to Jacksonville, North Carolina, go through MOS school, learn how to be a dynamic component mechanic, which is a fancy term for saying if shit breaks on the helicopter, they can't fix it on the flight line, they take it off, they send it to the garage that I'm at on base, and our shop fixes it. So we worked on like rotor blades, rotor heads, bell cranks, stuff like that, all the moving dynamic components that make a helicopter fly. So I got there, I started doing my job for a little bit. They, because I was the newest guy to the shop right after 9/11, they fapped me out to PMO, military police. They give me a rifle, an LBV, 6 magazines full of rounds, and say, go stand on the fence line and don't let anybody come onto the base. So I got to do that for about 6 weeks. And then I went back to the shop, learned my job a little bit, figured out I really didn't like it. Knew a guy that was in the engine shop, asked him, how do I do something different? He said he flew on helicopters as what they call an aerial observer or an aerial gunner. So just start calling the squadron and see if you can go for a ride along. So I called every squadron on the line at Miramar. We had 53s and 46s down there, and HMM 165, the White Knights, they called me back, or took my call, I guess. And yeah, we got a flight leaving, tomorrow at 1100. Be down at Hangar 6. We'll get you on a flight. So got approval, went for a 1.5 hop on a 46, flying up to Camp Pendleton, did some bounces, came back, and I was like, this is way cooler than my job. Like, how do I do this? So they kind of put the ball in my court. They said, look, you got to get a flight physical. You got to go to physiology. You got to pass swim qual, the dunker. It's different than Marine Corps swimming. You swim in flight gear, and they put you in a dunker, flip you upside down with the goggles on, and dunk you underwater and make you find your way out. So, okay, I'll figure it out. As I was telling you on the call the other week, my buddy told me about this. He was like, we're going to go swimming for at least a month before you go there. So he had me swimming in a flight suit and camis, just getting used to being uncomfortable in the water.
And you guys wore steel toe boots opposed to like regular jungles or?
Correct. Yeah, they're safety steel toed leather boots that, they're weighty. So I made all that happen. I went through the process, got put on flight orders finally, started flying with 165. They were getting ready to deploy on the Special MAGTF, the invasion of Iraq in 2003. And they were going to take me from the support squadron with them. I had orders, and probably 5-6 days before the boat was to depart, my unit came out and said, no, he's not going. We're revoking his orders. He can't go. So they canceled my orders. I didn't get to deploy on with the Special MAGTF for the invasion, which was the silver lining because that kept me home and I was able to be there for the birth of my first son. So it was an emotional roller coaster at home. My wife was helping me pack my sea bag. She was helping me pack all my crap, and she was pregnant, and she's like, try not to be pissed off at me. She grew up in a Navy family, so she understood. But as soon as I came home from work, I was like, I don't get to deploy on the MAGTF. She's like, I'm so sorry that you're not going to be able to deploy, but I am so thankful that you get to be home. I was like, this is awesome. This is like, everything happens for a reason. I truly believe that everything happens for a reason, and that happened so I could be there for my son's birth. And I just moved to another squadron on the airfield, continued training with them, and then I deployed with them a year later on the 11th MU.
I think that's pretty incredible, man. Like, a shout out to her for sure. Like, to be able to say, to get it, I'm sorry that you're not going to be able to deploy. Because, man, that is just the sample size of people in this world that can understand,
Yeah.
And it's so weird. It's something you can't explain to somebody, why would you want to go do this? And it's, yeah, you can just never explain it. But I've said it a couple times on the show where, you look back to some of the guys that did like Guadalcanal and they did their time and they went home and they're shooting letters to their buddies that are over there in Okinawa and Iwo Jima, like wishing that they were there with them.
Yep.
I mean, just absolute chaotic hell. And these guys are like, I should be there. And I don't know if it's a personality, a human characteristic, if it's, I remember back when I was studying psychology and stuff like a lifetime ago, there was something they were talking about, like this warrior gene, where there's just these people that it's just in them. Like it's just in them for some reason to go do the things that, have got to be done. Like this has to be done, like World War II, those things, the European and Pacific theater, like that had to be done. Some things are arguable. Like, did Vietnam have to be done? Did even Iraq or Afghanistan? You can get into the argument, but it was what we were tasked with doing.
Yep.
And then at the end of the day, it's so weird because you get there and you're not there for any political reasons. When people say it truly is about the guy to your left and right, like that's, it's that one of the coolest things I've ever heard. It was like during a general's retirement ceremony and this was quoted to us and passed on to us by Colonel Pitchford, our captain for Iraq, is like the superpower of the Marine Corps is love. And it's like the love that we have for one another, for the Marine Corps, for our country. It's love that enables us to do the things that we do. But so all that to say, I think that's pretty amazing that your wife can like get it and just, I'm sorry that you're not able to go, but I'm so thankful that you're staying, because that's not something that most people can hear and wrap their head around and comprehend, for sure.
No. I mean, most people can't even comprehend why Marines want to deploy. I've had this conversation with my brother, my mom, my dad, my family. And the best way I can describe it is, okay, imagine going to school for 4 years, you get your degree, and then like my mom was a pharmacist. So she went back to school after my brother and I graduated, moved out of the house, did our own thing. Then she went back to school, got her doctorate in pharmacy, became a pharmacist. And I told her, I said, imagine if you finished pharmacy school and you got to go into the pharmacy, but you had to sit down and watch another pharmacist do the job.
Yeah.
She's like, what? I was like, now imagine that once a week when you were going through pharmacy school, it was so hard that you were throwing up, that your body hurt like it got hit by a truck, that your brain felt like it was going to explode. And then when you finished and they gave you your certificate saying, congratulations, you passed, you still had to watch somebody else do your job. She's like, that'd be terrible. I was like, that's how Marines feel when they don't get to deploy. Period. And then when they get over there and they realize that they're not there for anybody other than their brothers to the left and to the right of them. We may go over there saying we're fighting for our country. And we joined the Marine Corps to defend our country, to support our nation. But the majority of us, once we get in a combat theater, we're fighting for the brother to the left and right of us, to the sister behind us, to the sister to the left and right of us. Like we're a family that we're fighting for each other. And then when you go back home, you're still thinking about all the extended family that may not be in your unit, but you know people or you have friends that are still over there, and you just have that itch. It's like the last couple months of a deployment, all you want to do is get home. I just want a cheeseburger. I just want a steak. I just want a hot shower with no other dudes talking to me while I'm taking a shower. Like I just want my own bed. And then when you get home, you take that 5 days and then you're like, it's too quiet. Where's my brothers?
Yeah.
What's going on? I could be doing something more productive. And then it's just a vicious cycle.
And then I don't know about the wing, but definitely in the infantry, man, like, because y'all at least, like everybody else in the Marine Corps, when you're in garrison, when you're stateside, you have a job. Yeah, if you work at admin, you go, you do paperwork, you do admin things. PMO, you get in your cars, you drive around. Like everybody has a job. Now, maybe arguably like including tanks don't exist anymore in the Marine Corps, but at the time, tankers, just the combat MOSs, engineers, uh, artillery. Like we didn't have a job when we were home. The job was like trying not to be found, just lay low, out of sight, out of mind, try to get some PlayStation time in or something like that. Because if you're not in the field, and you're not in the field for all 7 months, I mean, you'd go do a month out in California at CAX or whatever, and do some things here and there stateside. But I mean, man, it was this unbearable downtime. And garrison as an infantry Marine really sucks. Like really, really sucks because people care about your shave, your haircut, your camis. Like, but when you're overseas, man, you're in the shit. Like nobody really, like there's not really any like fuck games, like because you're now like in warrior mode. And
the only thing important is staying alive. It's like you said in that in your last episode. I mean, all you have to worry about is staying alive. All those
life's easy.
Yeah, life's super easy. It's like I just got to worry about staying alive and keeping everybody around me alive. Do my job.
That's it.
That's it. No, all right, easy.
Yeah, no cell phone bills, no car payments, like none of that stuff. You don't have to worry about any of that. It's definitely, it's an interesting way to live. One of the things I love the most about it, and so like you and I, we've hung out once together, and there's another guy, Damon, who I met, a couple other guys, and it's just super cool that you meet other people and make good relationships and connections, but then meet somebody like you. Well, didn't you say even your business partner was like, did you know that guy? Like when after you and I got done hanging out talking, and you're like, no, I literally just met him. And it's like you feel like you've known each other after a couple minutes, because some Marines and other vets are shit bags. Not everybody's cool, but like in that first couple minutes, we kind of plus the event we were at, like you're not going to really run into shit bags.
Yeah, there's already a pretty solid filter there.
Yeah, everybody was pretty vetted, and if you were there, you belong there, kind of thing. Dude, I thought it was funny as shit. I love this story. I always tell people whenever I met you that remember, so we're on the USS Intrepid up there in New York. That's where this event was, and we were inside for like the first 3 hours. That's where talks and things were happening, and then the second half of the event, the next 3 hours, was up on the flight deck upstairs, and we went, and there was an elevator. And like everybody was cramming into this elevator. And remember, we looked at the security guy and we're like, yo, can we just like take the stairwell? And he's like, yeah. And so then you and I just take off, like just like a couple of Marines, man, running the stairwells and
trucking through the Intrepid, just like that, whatever.
Yeah. Remember there was that dude that was like following us, and I was like, dude, are you a veteran also? He's like, no. I'm like, fuck it, come on.
He's like, no, but you guys look like you know where you're going. I was thinking that reminded me when he was following us, and we're like, oh, are you a veteran also? He's like, no. It made me think how many times, because I did 3 deployments on ship. I did 3 different MEUs, and without fail, multiple times on a MEU. And if you're a Marine watching this that has been on a ship, you've seen it or you've partaken in it. And it's the funniest shit in the world, watching Marines walk through the boat and just stop at a doorway. They just find a hatch and they stand next to it. And then with one buddy, and they're just standing there. And someone will walk by and be like, oh, I wonder what they're in line for. Fuck it, I'll get in line. I have nothing going on. I wonder if they're handing something out. And then before you know it, there's 10 or 12 people in line for something they have no idea what they're waiting for. And then the first guy goes, I'm taking off. Just walks away, and everybody going, what the hell are we waiting for? What's going on? Nothing. Just we were standing here. And yeah, it just cracked me up. That brought back a memory from the ship.
Yeah, that shit was fun as hell though, man, running the stairwells with you. I was just like, yeah, it's so funny too, because you get an event like that and you have like 500 something people there, and it's like the old saying, like, you can take the Marine out of the Marine Corps, but you can never take the Marine Corps out of the Marine. Like, we're still going to do, Marine shit. And we were like the first ones up there too. Yep. And then I remember, and then in like typical fashion, I see all these people coming up on the fucking elevator that I guess like brings the planes up and shit. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I could have rode that.
Yeah, we're both like, oh, I thought it was a little 3-passenger elevator going up.
Yeah, man, I didn't know that was an option. Like,
yeah, right.
I had to do it the hard way, man. So I want to like keep going with your career because it's really awesome.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if there's more you want to fill in prior to going. So did you end up doing Yankee White, or exactly how did you get to the White House? And if there's more before that,
Yeah. So I ended up doing 3 deployments I did 3 deployments on ship with the 11th MEU. Went to Yuma, Arizona for WTI Weapons and Tactics Instructors School. Went as a support aerial gunner, and that was a really cool experience. Get to go out to Yuma, and for those that don't know, it's like the Marine Corps version of Top Gun. You just go out there. If you're aviation, you get to fly around and execute on really large helo raids, night inserts, night extracts, lots of gun shooting. If you're in the infantry, you're planning hard hit raids. You're getting to do a lot of the live fire exercises that make you an instructor to teach those tactics to your unit when you get back. So we did that. I think it's the spring. Then it came back to the unit. We deployed. That was my last deployment, I believe. Came back. No, that was my second. Then I did one more deployment after that. My third deployment, I was tapped. I was done because we were on a 18-month cycle, or right about there. So you're home for 12 months, out for 6 months, home for 12 months. We had 2 kids at the time. I was fortunate enough not to miss either of their births, but it was just pulling me away. And I told my wife, when one of my kids say, "Daddy, please don't go," I said, "That's it. I got to take a break." So my third deployment, my oldest son was old enough to just ask me not to leave, and it broke my heart. And I was like, "Sorry, son, this will be the last one for a while, I promise." So while I was gone, I worked the phones and got orders to go back to Camp Pendleton as an instructor, crew chief instructor. So actually, let me jump back real quick. I skipped ahead. After my first deployment, I got back as the end of my enlistment. I wanted to stay in the Marine Corps, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. My buddy that I met in college that was a sniper, his name's Matthew Peterson. They tried to recall him back in the Marine Corps after 9/11. He had already signed an OSO contract, so he's coming back in as an officer anyways. Came back in as an infantry officer, went to 1st LAR Battalion out in Camp Pendleton, and he was a weapons company XO at the time. Him and I met up in Iraq in 2004, just randomly ran into each other in Al Assad at one of the chow halls there. And we're like, holy shit, man, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? So we had lunch and we talked and we visited, which was kind of hilarious. In the air wing, we respect officers, but you have a conversation with the officers a lot more than the infantry does. So I was a sergeant at the time. I'm rolling into the chow hall. He's a lieutenant. He's like, "Corey." I'm like, "Matt, what's up?" We give each other hugs, and like the gunny next to him, his eyes are like popping out of his head. Veins are bursting. I'm just like, I've known this dude since we were kids in college. So met up with him, get back from that deployment. I went up, I was looking at lap moving to be a 0313. Is that right? MOS for LAB crewman. So if I'm wrong, then I'm sure someone will correct me on that. But so I looked at
I don't know,
doing,
dude.
yeah. I'm sure someone out there will watch this and be like, that's not the right MOS. What the fuck's wrong with you? So I went up there, took a look. I was all set because when you lat move, something that my recruiter didn't tell me, they don't want you to go backwards, meaning if it costs X amount of dollars to train you to be an aviation guy, if you lat move, you have to go either lateral or up to something that's more. So I couldn't go to be an 0311 because it doesn't cost as much money to train an 0311 as it does helicopter mechanic.
Sure.
So I explored that option as I was talking to my wife about it. And I was like, look, I did the air wing thing. My job sucks. I don't like it. I'm still a dynamic component mechanic. I get to fly every once in a while, but I'm after going to Iraq and flying as an aerial gunner for my deployment, I didn't want to go back to a boring job. So I was either going to get out or go do something cooler. And then my XO at the time at 166, the unit that I just deployed with, Mike McCoy, he called me up and asked me if I wanted to come in and talk about becoming a homegrown crew chief. The Marine Corps used to do this where you're a mechanic first, you work on the helicopter, you learn the helicopter, and then you start flying on it and you become a crew member on the helicopter. But after you've already worked on it. Then they split the pipeline where they had a pipeline to be a 6112, a 46 crew chief, or 6172, a 46, or 6112, 46 mechanic, 6172, 46 crew chief. Once they did that, they kind of washed the homegrown syllabus out of the system. They managed to squeeze me in as one of the last homegrown crew chiefs. I did all my training with the squadron, HM 166. They sent me back to New River for 6 weeks to go through mech school, up to Camp Pendleton to do my check ride, and then immediately jumped on the ship and deployed on my second MEU. So I did that MEU, came back, did my third MEU. On that deployment, I got passed over for staff sergeant because when you lat move as a sergeant, you have no MOS credibility. So my first time in the zone for staff sergeant, I got passed over for lack of MOS credibility. I was pissed off at the world, irritated, talking about getting out again. Then 08 happened, the crash of the economy. And my wife said, I really don't think it's a good idea if you get out. And I said, yeah, I think you're correct. I should probably stay in. So I made some calls, got accepted up to Camp Pendleton at HMMT 164 to be a crew chief instructor. The Marine Enlisted Aircrew Training is also known as the meat department.
Yeah.
So it was a good time. I got up there. I spent just right around 2 years as a crew chief instructor. I watched a bunch of my buddies getting histed for recruiting. So they'd be there for a year. Recruiting team comes along and says, you're qualified. We're going to send you to recruit in middle America, nowhere. I saw it happening to a lot of people. I knew I was like 1/4 away from getting tapped. So I went home and I asked my wife, I said, so I'm going to have to do a B billet because I'm in a non-Victor unit and non-deployable. I'm non-essential. They'll pull me for something. So recruiting, drill instructor, combat training or combat instructor, or embassy duty. And she said, I do not want to stay in the States to go to some random city. I'd rather go to some random country with our family. So I was like, nailed it. Did my screening package, sent it in for class 1 TAC 11. So that was October, November of 2010. I went to Quantico for embassy duty as a Marine detachment commander. It was only for staff NCOs for the first week or first couple weeks. And then they bring all the NCOs and below in for the remaining 4 or 5 weeks of school. And it's a terrible school. It's horrible. It's like they just haze you for a month and a half. And then when you get out to post and you start doing your job, very little of it applied. And it's like, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about in boot camp. Was there a reason for this misery? So my first Well, when I was at embassy duty school, MSG school, the first posting that was assigned to me was Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Super excited. So embassy duty school, they have you go through the course. They teach you law enforcement handcuffing techniques. They call it defensive tactics, but it's really just kind of grappling and fighting and learning how to handcuff. And then the culminating experience of school, as everybody knows, you get sprayed with OC spray, and then you have to fight through the course. Well, they like to, as the Marine Corps does, mix pain and pleasure. So after you get OC'd in the morning, in the afternoon, you find out where you're going to go. You get your orders. My wife was out there for the last week or 2 weeks for 10 days of school. So they bring the spouses out optionally to let them go through like FBI training to figure out how to identify if someone's following you. Some really cool tactics that they get to go through. They get to go up to the forget the acronym, but it's the State Department Institute where they go up there and they learn all about the country they get assigned to. So we found out we're going to Malaysia. My wife spends the entire time learning about Malaysia, learning about the customs, learning about the embassy, the staff, everything. Then about 3 days before graduation, the sergeant major comes in to where my wife was, where all the wives were, and says, "Who's going to KL, Malaysia?" And my wife goes, "I am." He goes, "No, you're not. Here you go," and slid a piece of paper across the table. In good, solid Marine Corps fashion, the big green weenie came out to play, right? So she opens it up and goes, "Kenya?" And he goes, "Yep, you'll have fun. It's a great place." Half the wives in the room started crying. They're like, "They can't do that." My wife's like, "They're the Marine Corps. They can do whatever they want." Well, they had just had a class the day before about Marine Corps bombings or embassy bombings. Tanzania and Nairobi were bombed in 98. So my wife's like, hey, and the sergeant goes, "You're good. They're not due for another bombing for another 20 years at least." What the hell, man? Way to ease the tension. And my instructors passed it to me in a very jokingly manner, where, as you know, you have leaders that joke in a like, "ha ha, not kidding, but kidding" manner. So they're like, "Hey, Louton, where are you going again?" And I was like, "Malaysia." And they're like, "No, you're not." I said, "Yeah, I am." They're like, "No, I don't think you are. I think you need some Africa in your life." And I was like, "The fuck are you talking about?" He was like, "You need Africa in your life." I was like, "What?" And then they're like, "No, seriously, you're going to Kenya." "No, really, what are you talking about?" "No, you're going to Kenya. They changed your orders. Guy from Malaysia, he's extending. Guy from Kenya, he's coming back as an instructor. You're going to go replace him. They need you in Kenya." Okay. So
Needs of the Marine Corps.
Needs of the Marine Corps, right? So we packed up our stuff and we shipped out to Nairobi, Kenya on December 21st, 22nd, somewhere around there. And did it 18 months in Nairobi and did a great job. Then I got to go to Dublin, Ireland for the following 18 months. Both posts were a lot of fun. I like to tell people Kenya was sporty. It felt like I was actually doing the job I was out there for. I trained with the Fast Company in the region out of Hoa for the big what ifs, because we had a lot of Al-Shabaab terrorist activity in the region. So it very much felt like I was remaining operational while on a B billet, because that's the whole reason why I wanted to do embassy duty, was to remain operational. And then when I got to Nairobi, or left Nairobi and I got to Dublin, not so much operational anymore. Now you're getting into the political aspect of it all. But that presented a whole new opportunity, because when I got out to Nairobi, or left Nairobi and got out to Dublin, Ireland, that was in 2012. And in 2012, Dan Rooney was the ambassador for Dublin, Ireland. And for those that don't know who Dan Rooney was, he was the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the first politically appointed ambassador from the Obama administration. And I think he still remains as one of the only politically appointed ambassadors that moved through the process without any arguments from either side of the aisle. Like, he was just ominous, you're good. And he was a phenomenal human being to work with. And he comes into play here shortly, because fast forward at the end of that time in Ireland, I got orders. I was getting ready to go on vacation with my family. We were going to Sicily for spring break, and I was 6 months out from rotating off the program. And I get orders for a V-22 unit in Camp Pendleton. I was like, I'm not a V-22 guy. I'm a 46 guy. Like, I get it. The 46 squadrons are transitioning, but I was told that it was going to be years before they all transitioned. Well, over the course of 2.5 years of being on MSG duty, when I checked out of Fleet Marine Corps, a lot of progress was made on the V-22 front, apparently, and they were fast tracking it. So I didn't want to go back to a fleet unit at the time to transition to V-22s. I was like, I'll go to a fleet unit that's 46s, absolutely, but not V-22s. I wasn't ready for it. And I made some calls. Monitor said, the only way you're getting around this is if you go to HMX-1, Presidential Helicopter Squadron. I was like, what's the feasibility of that? He goes, well, you already got a top secret clearance, so it should be a pretty easy shoo-in, especially if you know someone there. I did know someone there. A Marine that I deployed with, he was a Marine 1 crew chief at HMX. So he was the crew chief on the South Lawn saluting the president, and he came on the plane. And I reached out to him. He's like, yeah, man, here's this Master Guns number, Master Guns Compton. Reach out to him. He'll take care of you. And Reese Compton is still one of my great friends. He has his own company now. He became an entrepreneur as well. So it's kind of fitting with the Marines get out. They're like, I'm just going to start my own shit.
Yeah. I'm done working for somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. I'm tired of being told what to do.
Yeah.
So I reached out to him. He's like, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to send you an application, fill it out. It should be an easy fit. By the way, do you know anybody in Cape Town, South Africa? I was like, I think I do. Well, this was in 2012 timeframe. So they're getting ready to go to South Africa. I put them in touch with the deck commander down there, and he's able to get down there. The deck commander and his deck entertains the Marines from HMX, and everything works out well. They get back, and Master Guns calls me up and says, hey, man, I'm changing your orders. You're going to be coming to HMX. So that was in 2012, 13. Yeah, so going to 13, I finish up the end of 13, and I'm coming back to the States. I go to Virginia, check into HMX-1 in December of 2013. And that's where, like, I thought it was just going to be a 4-year stint, and it turned out to be 8 years. So started out as just working on V-22s or 46s, and then we did the last 46 trip. We sunned down the 46s and stood up the V-22s in stride, meaning the squadron never shut down operations. We still supported the president and the vice president in the executive office while supporting TBS, training the Marine officers, and transitioning from one platform to another, which is really unheard of. Usually they completely stand down a squadron. You bring in your instructors to train everybody up. You put programs in place, and then you stand back up like 6 months later. We did it in stride while executing our mission on a daily basis. Then I took over as the line chief in charge of the Marines and flight line for the V-22 side of the house, which they called the green side of the house. That's the Marine Corps aircraft, not the white tops. And I had probably 60 to 70 Marines that I was responsible for in flight line. So I got to do that for a couple years. And then when Obama went to Nairobi in 2015, maybe 2015, 2016 timeframe, a pilot came up to me and was like, hey, I heard you lived in Kenya. I said, I did live in Kenya. Yeah, for 18 months. He goes, you want to go back? And I'm like, no, not really. Like, check. I got my African experience. I'm done. And he said, well, the squadron's going down to Nairobi. Are you going? It's like, I had no idea the squadron's going to Nairobi. And he's like, yeah, we have a trip. I think you'd be a huge asset to go down there, especially since you know the area really well and you know the embassy. I said, okay. So I thought nothing of it. Isn't 5 minutes later, the guy walked away. I asked somebody later, I was like, hey, who was that? And they're like, oh, that's Captain so-and-so. I was like, what's he do? He's like, oh, well, he's a pilot, but he's also a wheelo. I said, well, what's a wheelo? Well, it's the only job in the Marine Corps that does this. And the acronym is WHLO, WHLO, and it stands for White House Liaison Officer. So that billet within that squadron is to be the conduit between the presidential helicopter squadron and the White House. So there's maybe a handful of officers that are up there. There's a few enlisted. The enlisted are primarily there for the admin piece to make up rosters and do stuff like that. I was fortunate enough to be considered qualified and put on trips as an actual wheelo that went out and did the planning and the coordination of presidential travel. But it all started because I went to Kenya and knew the embassy there, knew the Marine House, put people in touch with the right people, made it a lot easier. When we walked into the embassy, everybody's like, Gunny, you're back. And I was like, no, I'm not. But so that helped out. And then we went down to Saudi for a trip down to Saudi. And I was able to get the Marine House to open up and invite the Marines from the squadron to have a barbecue there and have drinks. And since it's a dry country, it's a big thing. CO loved it. He was like, that's amazing. And then all of a sudden I got kind of the invitation. Hey, what would you think about coming up to the wheelo office full time and helping coordinate travel and be the wheelo chief? Because the gunny that's leaving, the gunny that's supposed to replace him, he didn't get cleared for his higher clearance. So we could really use you to come in, step in and fill the role. I said, absolutely. I'd love to. So at that point, I only had 2 years left on station that is supposed to be done. Go in, start flying on white tops as a crew chief on H3s, spend some time in the air, going on trips, enjoying my job. I had 2 or 3 Marines that worked for me at the time, just loving my life. My wife was not too happy because the amount of travel that comes with that job is pretty significant. So my first month in that office went like this. Oh, President Obama's going to Japan for the Hiroshima trip. They were a couple guys short. I get a call on a Wednesday night. Hey, we need you to go to Japan to help out with this trip. I was like, okay, great. When do I leave? You leave on Sunday. Okay. In this office, no one does anything for you. You have to do it all yourself. So you go to Sato, you tell them what flight you want, you buy your plane ticket, you contact, if it's overseas, you contact White House Travel, find out where everybody's staying at a hotel, you get your hotel room. If it's CONUS, you arrange all the hotels for all the Marines. So you're doing all the logistics for it. It's pretty cumbersome at times. But so I went to Japan, was there for 10 days or so, come home, go up to the White House, get my White House credentials, jump on a plane, go to New York. I'm in New York for a week and a half to support the president's trip there. And then the president says he wants to go to Yosemite to celebrate the centennial or whatever of national parks. So then I just followed on from New York to Yosemite, stayed there for a couple of weeks, did that job, then came home. When all was said and done, I was on the road for like 28 days. And I get home and my wife's like, this is what we have to look forward to.
So did you like pretty much have to go anywhere that Marine One was going to be?
Yeah, so pretty much. So the way it works is HMX got the job of flying the president because the president, I'm going to botch this. I'm not even going to try to remember exactly who it was in the exact years. I used to know it like the back of my hand. But the president needed to get back to the White House there was shitty weather. The Army was supposed to pick them up. The Army said, terrible weather, we're not doing it. The Marines were like, we'll fly in and pick him up.
Fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. And HMX was the experimental Marine helicopter squadron. So not only did they say, screw it, they're experimental pilots. They're testing out the combat readiness of helicopters. What better way to test it out than pick up the man himself? So
Right.
they picked up the president, flew him back to the White House, got him safely on the South Lawn. And from then on, he was like, I don't want anybody pick me up but the Marines. I know that they'll show up every time. And since that day, the Marine Corps has not dropped a presidential mission. Like we've said we can't do it because weather or whatever, but there's never been the president standing on the tarmac going, where's the helicopters? Like there's a no-fail mission.
It is a pretty awesome thing about the Marine Corps. The embassies, all of our embassies, Marines. Camp David, Marines. The White House, Marines. Air One or Marine or Marine One, right? Yep. Marines. That, and especially those of us that know the history of how many times they've tried to do away with the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just fucking can't get rid of us, man.
Nope.
And it's almost kind of like, why would you want to?
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to? The things that, we always come through.
Get away. Yeah. Why would you want to get rid of the sure thing? Which
yeah.
really blew my mind. Have you seen that new series on Netflix, Marines?
So the 4-part documentary.
Yeah.
I've not watched that yet. I've been kind of holding off.
So I started watching it the other day. Funny thing about it, I'm on a group chat with some Marines that worked for me in Dublin when we were on embassy duty. And it's been silent on the group chat for a while. And I just get a ding on my phone. It's like, hey, Captain Russell Johnson is on Netflix. Russell Johnson was a sergeant that worked for me in Ireland. He's one of my watchstanders. Good dude. And I was like, no way. So they're like episode 3 halfway through. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna at least watch this and find him on there. The episode 3 of that 4-part docuseries talks about how the Marine Corps is getting rid of the scout sniper platoons.
Yeah.
My mind blown. It's like, we're talking about the Marine Corps' #1 mission is warfighting and lethality, and you're getting rid of our most lethal weapon. The most scariest individual on the battlefield is the one you can't see that can reach out and touch you from 1,500 meters, 2,000 meters away. Like,
and I don't know. I haven't really dove into the rationale behind it and all of those different things. But what I know from my experience, I got invited up to Stone Bay, where MARSOC is at. And I was there for a recon team that was prepping for a deployment. So I was getting to hang out there with them while they were doing their training and everything. And that's when I learned that the Marine Corps was doing away with scout snipers. The sniper capabilities is going to be within like MARSOC recon.
Yeah.
So, and man, I have to get one of a couple of our stay guys, because they did the Lord's work, man. There is something serious to be said about, battalion level snipers just providing overwatch, like what they went and did.
Absolutely. For 20 years, they were literally the cloak of safety for thousands of service members, not just Marines, SEALs, Army, regular, like they were the ones that were Overwatch. They were taking care of them.
Yeah. It's kind of a crazy thing. And then, I mean, my job as well, which I don't know, whatever. I mean, I'm going to be salty because I am, but our job, like even when we look at it, the 0351 anti-tank assaultmen, we did so much more. Like, well, hey, there was no tanks in Iraq and Afghanistan, so I don't know if that's what swayed that decision at all. But the bunker busting capabilities we had, launching rockets into houses were strongholds that we were up against it. and then just the sheer amount of demolitions that we did. And I understand that the engineers have the capacity to do that, but man, I mean, you're talking about, when we were going door to door, Operation Steel Curtain in 05, literally breaching like every house. I mean, unless you're going to have like a battalion of engineers, like deploy with us, because we had guys with every single squad, and we only had like 14 of us, and we were 14 of us for an entire company. So we were busy, man. We were super, super busy doing that demolitions. And, there's something to be said about having the training in it. And we even had minimal training, but man, you don't want we had a seasoned guy who still got nervous with crimping blasting caps together and things like that. And we would have failed detonations. Now you got to go down there, and he was an NCO as well. So now you got to go down there. You got to wait 30 minutes. You got to put a sympathetic charge next to the thing. So imagine taking some 18-year-old that has no idea what they're doing. They're an 0311, which I love them to death, but like, you should probably have somebody very well versed in demolitions fucking with it, like personal opinion.
This isn't like, oops, the flashlight didn't come on, turn the battery around.
Like, do you want to fly? If the Marine Corps is like, we're doing away with mechanics, but like, we'll teach that guy over there how to do some things. Like, are you wanting to fly on a helicopter where like some brand new fresh dude to the fleet, like he fixed it? Has he been to school for it? No. Oh, fuck it, let's ride it. No, nah.
Roll the dice.
What's super cool with talking with you, man, and I dig this about pretty much most podcasts. Even when we were talking last week, I was like, I heard the one story, and I'm like, dude, we need to talk more. He'll be awesome for a podcast. And I'm glad that we did, because I don't like hearing the stories before. I love hearing it right now, live in real time, like the king. Just every, like your path is super cool, and it's just, I'm sitting here listening to everything that you're talking about, thinking about. There's just this entire side of, well, not even side. There's just all these little components of the Marine Corps that you're in your little bubble, and you really just get to see the micro. 100%. And then, talking with you, and even though, I mean, I could look at it and be like, fuck, man, I wish I knew about that stuff. That seems so cool. Even if I don't feel that way, which I don't, I can look at it with this incredible appreciation for trying to think of the best way to say this, like the representation that you and the guys that you served with and did the missions, in Kenya and Dublin, all of the missions that you guys did, and the way that you represented like the Marine Corps that I'm a part of, just as we look back and we look at the guys that, the island hopping campaigns and Bella Woods, even someone like yourself, like the work that you do and did, and the guys you served with did on the scale that you did it. It's so cool to be able to hear your stories, your experiences, and be like, dude, that's fucking cool. I'm so glad that there's like good dudes, good Marines that are out there doing that. Cause like y'all make us look cool too. Like I wore dress blues like twice in my life. When everybody sees the Marines like doing all the, I was talking with this dude, and we were talking about imposter syndrome. Whenever you get into doing something and like, man, they're going to find out I don't belong. Like, I'm not supposed to be here. And he was talking about experiencing that when he got to the fleet. And then, dude, I don't know what people think about Marine Corps infantry guys. We're probably like the most, well, we're super physically fit, but we don't look it. Like the vet bods, we just have that for like 4 years, man. Cause we're out in the field, we train, we hump, we do all that stuff. We do the missions, but man, every night it's like Jack Daniels and Domino's, and like, we're not the 6-pack. We're not the Marines that you see, on TV and in posters and all that stuff. And like, so that's where like you guys make us look good. People don't realize like what kind of like dirt bags we are,
That's like the difference of, well, do you want to be strong or do you just want to look good? There's a difference. And like, talk about strong. When I was at HMX for that 8 years, I ran back into Matthew Peterson again. So for the second time in the Marine Corps, this is a wild story. Do you know how many people work in the Pentagon, roughly?
I have no idea.
Like 40,000 people
Okay.
are employed in the Pentagon, roughly. Like the number fluctuates, but around 40 grand. So that's bigger than most cities. I mean, Juneau, Alaska, capital of Alaska, the population's like 31,000 people. So think about that for a minute. The size of the Pentagon. I'm at HMX. I'm in the Wheelo shop and coming around the holiday season and Marine Corps birthday ball and all that stuff. Ball's coming up. We have to deliver personal invitations to our birthday ball. Well, that's your job. You're a liaison. Go liaise with everybody up in DC. So they gave me and my Marines a couple invitations to take up to like the commandant's office, the assistant commandant's office, Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, go deliver these to their offices. I walk in the Pentagon. I get maybe 20 feet through security. Walking down the stairs, there's Matthew Peterson. He's a major now. And I'm like, Matt? And he goes, Corey, I'm in a suit. He's in camis. And he's like, what are you doing here? I said, what are you doing here? So we kind of catch up for a minute. He was over at 8th and I. So he wrapped up his tour at Marine Barracks. And he invited me over. He invited me and my wife. We got to go see the silent drill team perform. It was really cool. Got to go over to the officers club at the barracks and have drinks, and it's really awesome. Good experience. But what was probably one of the most intense real experiences I've ever seen or done in garrison was going to see where the body bearers train. Those guys are insane. Like they are jacked. They have to carry trash cans full of concrete. Is the only time I've ever seen a pull-up bar that was bowed from these guys just pulling in it. It's like, man, these guys are insane. And they train in a parking garage, like in a dungeon. It's dark, it's dreary, it's damp. And the selflessness of that job, every one of them, they aren't doing it to look good. They aren't doing it for themselves. They're doing it 100% to give that final honor to a fallen brother.
Yeah.
And they're the only branch that has pallbearers that, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, whenever they're carrying a casket, before they lower it, they press it up one more time up in the air and then they lower it down. So it's to raise them above everybody and then put them in the ground. And the sheer strength to be able to do that,
yeah,
that's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that just came to mind when you're talking about being strong. You hump, you can carry the weight, you can carry a machine gun, but it's like, well, we're just going to keep the shirt on for right now. Like, we don't need to show you my Jack Daniels and Oreos right now.
Like, right.
But yeah, I mean, all the different arms of the military. It's funny. I'm sure you get this all the time when you tell people you're in the Marine Corps. They're like, oh, my cousin's neighbor was in the Marine Corps. You might know him. And you're like, I doubt it. It's a big Marine Corps.
Yeah.
But then people like you and I run into each other. And I'm sure if we talked long enough, we probably know some of the same people. Almost guaranteed it. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, once you get talking, it's like, actually, the Marine Corps is pretty damn small. I mean, it is.
It's funny because I've said that exact same thing, that the only time that I've met two, well, now three, right? In the 20 years of being out, I met a guy who was with 2-1 that did Operation Steel Curtain with us. And crazy enough, he was also attached to 3-6 in 2001 with my senior guys, did the invasion of Afghanistan.
Wow.
So like we were in battle together, and then I was in Vegas. It was around the ball time, and I saw some dudes in dress blues, and I was like, "Yo, happy birthday, fellas! Who are you with?" And the one guy was like, "Oh yeah, I'm with 2-1," and he was still with 2-1. So he had been there with us for Steel Curtain. And then the third weird thing was when we were in Iraq, we were on this little outpost on the Syrian Iraqi border just south of the Euphrates called Camp Gannon.
Yep.
And I met someone whose son was there and served with Captain Gannon, the 7th Marines. So he was there when Captain Gannon got killed. And
Wow.
so I've kind of had, you're right. It's, the vast majority, probably 99% of times, people are like, "Oh, hey, do you know Doug?" I'm like, "No, I have no fucking clue who that is." But then, yeah, with guys like you, and especially you making a long career out of it, like the 20 years, there's so many opportunities for you to like ran into guys, who I knew and served with, who might have enlisted and stayed longer. The Marine Corps is super small, and it's weird because it's both, right? It's really big and vast, but then at the same time, it's small. So
Yeah,
very
it's a
interesting.
strange dynamic how it works, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty wild.
So,
but yeah, so for the end of my career, when I was supposed to be leaving after 4 years at HMX, 18 maybe 17, 18, when during Trump's first administration, so the president's going down to Israel, we did what's called like a left seat, right seat, where the HMX is one of the few commands that the incoming CO shows up a full year in advance.
oh, damn. Wow.
So they do a full year as what they call the PCO, the prospective commanding officer. So they get trained up on the aircraft, because HMX now flies 4 type model series aircraft, which is unheard of for any squadron. Usually you have 1 type model series, meaning either a 46, 53, V-22, whatever, and the pilots, that's all they know. HMX has 3 white top aircraft. They have the H-3 Delta, the H-60, and now the new VH-92. So these pilots have to know multiple aircraft to fly. So when the new commanding officer comes in, he gets spooled up on all the aircraft. He gets plugged back into how the units ran, and every CO that goes to HMX is their second or third tour at HMX. It's never their first time going. So they already know the mission. They've flown the president before, or they've worked in the environment. So it's not new. It's a refresher.
Yeah.
So we go to Israel. The incoming CO at the time was Colonel Garrett Hoffman. He was a Cobra pilot. Great dude. We're in Israel. We're hanging out. We all go out to a team dinner. We're chatting. And he asked me, he's like, "So, Corey, what's your plan? How much time do you have left at the squadron and Wheelo, and what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, sir, I'm coming up on the end of my tour here, and I'm going to try staying at Quantico. At the time, my oldest son, I think he was a sophomore in high school, freshman, sophomore in high school. So I was like, I want him to finish high school in the same place. Kids are getting old enough where and I was close enough to the end. I was at 16 years or so. So I could actually finish on one duty station. So I was looking at going to staff academy as an instructor, anything. I would hand out fucking gym towels at the base gym if I had to. I really didn't care. You want me to work at combat camera and straighten people's shirts out? I don't care. I'll be the gunny that does it. I just wanted to stay in the area. And he's like, "Well, why don't you just stay here?" I didn't know that was an option. I thought after 4 years, the Marine Corps just want me to move on. He's like, "No, when we get back, talk to Scotty B. He'll help you and you guys can figure it out." Well, got back. We did some research, looked at TOs, looked at what's coming up. And for HMX, the political cycles is our deployment cycles. So when you have midterm elections, when the president's going to be out on the trail campaigning, that's really our busy time of the year. Or when general election comes, then you're really busy. And in between, you still have, random trips that pop up, but those are your busy seasons. So we're coming up on midterms around that time, and the CO and the XO said, you know what, we need Corey, and we want to keep him on for a couple more years, at least till the end of the cycle. And they got me close enough where I could drop my Appendix J. And that's pretty much how it happened. They got me extended. I was coming up on promotion for my third rocker. I wrote a letter to the board. Please do not consider me for promotion. I'm retiring. And then the Sergeant Major calls me in his office. He's like, hey, the Headquarters Marine Corps is looking at moving you, giving you orders down in New River. I said, oh, here's my Appendix J. Like, I'm retiring. He's like, perfect. So in my retirement in, I think it's March of 21. That was my retirement speech. I won. Like, I felt like I won the Marine Corps game.
Yeah.
I was only told really a handful of times what was going to happen, and I had no choice over it. But other than that, I tried to stay as proactive as I possibly could. One of my recruiters told me, you be sure to get everything you want out of the Marine Corps, because it's going to get everything it wants out of you. So starting from an early stage, kind of like what I told you, like never enough. My job wasn't enough when I was a 6132 component mechanic. So I want to do more. So I made the calls. I made it happen. I started flying on helicopters as a crew chief or as an AO. That wasn't enough. Re-enlisting, I wanted to have the MOS of crew chief. So I made that happen. And then I got done with my deployments. I just kept putting it out there. And once I found out what a wheelo was, I was like, that would be an awesome job. I want to do that. And that's what I did with embassy duty. That's what I did with the HMX with wheelo. And then when it was time to go, I was like, I'm done. Like, really, you could get promoted. I was like, why? Like, I'm retiring as a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps, and the last job that I'll have has such autonomy that my CO or my OIC would call me at home and be like, hey, you need to go to Johnson, Tennessee, and be there in 96 hours. Okay. And that was it. There was no, tell me when you got your plane ticket. Tell me what your flight number is. Tell me where your hotel is. Tell me this. Tell me that. It's like, no, fire and forget. I mean, that was the caliber of Marines that we were working with.
Yeah.
So you would just go down there and they would trust that you would handle the job. And it's like, no news is good news. If you have problems, call for help. Otherwise, get the job done. And I knew if I would have stayed in and taken a promotion, I would have been back down at a squadron working for a lieutenant that was, 15, 20 years younger than me. And I'd be trying to bite my tongue on not saying, could you just get off my back? So I was like, you know what? Quit while you're ahead.
Yeah.
Leave when you're ahead of the house.
It's like dudes that retire, like when they won the Stanley Cup, like, what do I need? Especially if you've done it for a while. I mean, it's year 1 or 2, it's a different story. But, when you win and you're there at that 20-year mark, and yeah, dude, go out. Absolutely. You go out on top, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, real quick, fast, before we jump to something else, going back to when I said, remember when I said when I was in Ireland, I worked for Dan Rooney.
Yeah.
So when I got out of the Marine Corps, we're looking around like, where do you want to live? First time in 20 years, we get to pick it. We picked Pittsburgh.
Right.
Like, why not? Like, PA's really veteran friendly. They don't tax my military retirement. Huge. And
that is huge.
One of the best veteran hospitals in the country, and very friendly to veterans. Plus, we are big outdoors people. We like to hike, camp, do all kinds of fun stuff. So we're like, sure, why not? What's the worst going to happen? We'll move in 5 years. Big deal. Moved here, and a few years before I retired, Dan Rooney passed away. Now, my cousin worked for the Steelers back when I was in Ireland. She passed away in 2014. I went up to her service up in Pittsburgh, reconnected with Dan Rooney. He put me in touch with his right-hand man, Omar Khan, and Omar took care of me and my family when we were up in Pittsburgh for my cousin's service. Took my kids to training facility, let them throw the ball around on the indoor training field. It was like really cool. So as I was getting ready to get out of the Marine Corps, that was 21. So what just happened? COVID. Everything shut down. I was looking for a job. For a while, I was looking into working for the Steelers if they would take me to coordinate their travel. Because every time I came up to Pittsburgh for a presidential trip, I ended up inviting them out to come see the helicopter, giving them tours, and just being good friends. But so now I retire in March of 21 or April of 21. My family and I moved to Pittsburgh. We put everything in storage because we want to do some traveling. We're just living in an apartment. And May 28th, 29th, 2021, I get an email from Headquarters Marine Corps. If you do not extend to November 31st or November 30th, December 1st, you will forfeit the transfer of your education benefits. What the hell? So I look into it. I call my friend that's at Headquarters Marine Corps as a career planner. And she says, yeah, someone stamped off on your paperwork saying that you were approved and that you had completed your obligated service time, but you're 6 months short. So some Lance Corporal stamped the paperwork. They're not going to be held accountable. Instead, I'm going to get my benefits taken away. The meaning I can't transfer my education benefits to my kids. Well, I don't want to go to college. I'm done. Like, let my kids go use it. Within 12 hours, they extended me 6 months in the Marine Corps. The sergeant major said I could come back to the squadron and they'd find a job for me there. Well, I'd already moved out of the state. All my shit was packed up, is in storage. Said I could work at an I&I unit, a reserve unit here in Pittsburgh. Again, all my stuff's in storage. I don't have my uniforms. So the DOD started this program, I don't know how many years ago, but it's a transition program. Damn it, I can't think of the name of it right now. It'll come to me. But they take veterans that are transitioning out, put them in with a company that is accepting internships and they're willing to work with veterans, that says, we have a position available for you at the end of the internship if it works out. Now, it's an unpaid internship because you're on terminal leave or still getting paid by the military. So I called my friend Omar up and I said, hey, I need help. This is the situation. So plugged me in with the president of the stadium here in Pittsburgh, Jimmy Sacco. Jimmy and I met, laid out the plan for him, and he said, absolutely, we'd love to have you. So I worked the 2021 football season at what was then Heinz Field, now Acrisure Stadium, working in security and operations. Funny story, the guy that was in charge of the security for the stadium and the team, he is a Marine Recon guy, Marine Recon officer that got out of the Marine Corps, went into the FBI, did time in the FBI, and then retired FBI, and then went to work for the Steelers. So because of my time in the Marine Corps at the embassy in Ireland, drew a relationship that I nurtured. And, you know, I tell everybody, don't tell me to call you if you don't want me to call you, because that's what happened with Dan Rooney. When he left, he's like, he told everybody at the embassy, if you're ever in Pittsburgh, give me a ring. Very few people take people up on that offer. Right. Well, when I was going up for my cousin's service, I reached out. Sure, I'm going to be in town. What are you doing? And then that relationship grew into meeting Omar, which grew into a really good friendship that we've been friends for over 10 years. And it's just turned into a really great thing. But that relationship provided me a golden umbrella or a golden parachute, if you would, to prevent me from losing all my benefits. I was able to tap into it and say, hey, like, I don't care what I do, just I need to stay here and do something.
We say it all the time, man, especially like with the app, with business and everything, like your network is your net worth. You know, and people say that since the beginning of time, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Like, you need to know a little something and not be a piece of shit. You're a good person. Yeah, and that's a big thing too, man. Just being a good, genuine, authentic person. You know, like be yourself. Like be, you know, like you remember when we went to that that bar at the end of the night. It was like
Oh yeah.
for that second
Yep.
networking. Dude, I mean, I was rocking shorts, sandals, and a Shaker t-shirt, you
Oh
know?
yeah. I was like, dude, you look comfortable as hell. You're like, yep, no more monkey suit for me.
Yep. Yeah, you're one of the few people, man, that's seen me in a suit. Um, you know,
It's
I
a
did
rarity.
that.
I'm glad we got it on video.
Yeah, I know, right? Like everybody was like, "Holy shit, dude!" Like, well, look, what's that? But like, yeah, man. I mean, just and I got that from you when we met. Just like good, authentic, genuine dude. And I tell people that all the time because they're like, "Oh man, you this Peleliu trip and like all the things that you get to do and Black Rifle Coffee, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Listen, dude, just like you know, we started a podcast, we talk to people, we're just us, and I'm kind of the same way, man. Like you said, somebody says like hit me up or call me or don't be a stranger. Okay,
Yeah.
like I'm not gonna always call you like to ask for things, but I'll definitely just call you and be like, hey, I'm gonna be in the area, I'm gonna be in town, this,
You want to meet up
that,
for
the other
dinner,
thing.
grab a drink, something. Yeah.
Yeah. So but yeah, man, that is awesome. Like I mean, I feel like I talk a lot more than I did. I was just listening, and like your story is like cool as shit. I'm glad that we did this, because yeah, like I said earlier to people, like the only thing I knew about was that you made the transition from mechanic to like actually being on a crew, and then we started talking about like things that probably don't care to most people, but just having to go through swim qual and all that
Yeah.
different stuff. And just I started to kind of get like a piece of your story enough that I'm like, you know what? I think he'd be pretty, and I mean, just blown away, dude. Like, such a cool. You won. You won the Marine Corps. Like, you fucking. I don't know if I've ever met anybody that's won before, but like you
Yeah,
definitely did.
I feel like it, and I've had a lot of people, a lot of Marines that have worked for me, that I've worked with, that ask me, like, when did you know to retire? When
Good
did you
question.
know that it's time to get out? And someone told me a long time ago, when you can imagine waking up and not being able to put on your uniform to go to work, and you're okay with it, hang that shit up, man. No shame
Yeah.
in it. No shame in it. And that's what happened right like 2019 COVID timeframe. I started really thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I'm good. I've got to do just about everything I want to do in the Marine Corps that I had an opportunity to achieve, and I'm good. Like, let's start the next chapter. And that's when I was like, I'm ready to go in a different direction. And in 2017, I started prepping, or 2016, really, I started prepping for my eventual exit from the Marine Corps by getting into real estate.
Yeah.
And I started looking around. Like, I got a lot of cool job offers, cool things I could do, but I really don't want to punch a clock for somebody, like we were talking about.
Right.
And the more I looked into it, like, real estate just kept coming up over and over and over with people that were able to have passive income, retire early, do whatever. And I sold my wife on it. It was a hard sell because the one house that we bought in California was a headache to buy and a headache to sell. And then the house that we bought in Virginia was a headache to buy. And she's like, I do not want to be involved with real estate. I said, well, you don't have to. I mean, you're not involved with helicopters, so I can
Yeah.
do it on my own. And
Yeah.
and we agreed on that. And I took my only reenlistment bonus I ever got from the Marine Corps, which after taxes was like $18,000, and I used it to get a duplex and do some light rehab on it to start renting it out down in by Virginia Beach in Norfolk, Virginia. And I did that for a year. Then I bought another one, and then I did that for a year. My OIC at the time saw what I was doing. He's like, I want to get in on this game.
Yeah.
So during COVID, him and I bought a property together, and we still have that one. But I just started kind of padding that up. That way, when it's time to retire, I was like, I have my retirement. I'm not sure if I'm going to get disability or not, but I'll have rental income from these properties. So I'll be set. And then that's when I really started kind of going in that direction.
Yeah, that's great, man. We always tell people, you know, like there's so many things you can do out there, and it doesn't have to be working for somebody else. Um, and I mean, numerous times, we said reach out. I love talking with people, helping people. I mean, hell, I've gone and talked to entrepreneurship classes and programs at universities, and just students, kids out of high school. I'm certainly more than happy enough to do it with fellow veterans, and I think that we have an incredible skill set for it. We have the mindset for it of just accomplish the mission, man. Move forward, push through, get it done. I think it makes us really, and plus, like we can handle some bullshit, like things that most people would shut them down. I mean, I've gone through some things. I have to tell you, not really, not that I don't care to share them. I'm just not in a place yet where I can speak so
Really make it
freely.
that public.
Yeah, I can't speak so freely
Yeah.
publicly about it, but like the ones that know, they know. And I mean, I went through shit that probably the vast majority of people would quit and gave up.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, just like the famous quote from Bella Wood, like retreat hell, we just got here. Like
Yeah.
there's no
Like,
retreat.
not
you
giving
know?
up now. That kind
Yeah.
of goes back to like the shit that we go through in boot camp. I mean, no one wants to be the guy that's like, I quit, I'm going home. And then you have to go home going, yeah, I didn't make it. You
I
guys were
couldn't
right.
make
It was
it.
going to be
Couldn't
hard.
hack it.
And
Mm-hmm.
and then when you get out to School of Infantry and you're going on these humps and you're like, my shoulders are falling out of my torso. My arms are falling off. My legs are numb. I think I'm dying. I actually think I'm dying. And you don't see anybody else falling out, complaining, bitching, or crying. And the people that are falling out, they're not being treated very kindly. So you're like,
No.
no, I think I'd rather literally die than quit right now. So I'll just keep going. So we, as Marines, we have that perseverance, like just drilled it into us from day one. Like, so when things get really shitty, you're like, it's not that bad.
Yeah. 4 words, man.
Yep.
Don't be that guy.
Exactly. And then
Don't be that guy.
Like you were saying, talking to people, I think that's another thing that is special about Marines is we're taught and trained from day one to, like, the Marine to the left and the Marine to your right, you're all interchangeable. And don't be the guy with the secrets. If you die,
Yeah.
the guy next to you should be able to pick up and go right where you were going without going, oh, wait, I didn't get a pass down. I didn't get an email. I didn't get a phone. Like, no, you're replaceable. You got to, when a man in front of you falls, you got to keep going. And when you fall, someone else has to keep going. So we have that in us that we want to teach, we want to educate, we want to share our knowledge and our wisdom with those that are, maybe they're not behind us, maybe they're ahead of us and they're hitting a wall. And we're like, man, I'm not where you are, but if I were in your position, I would look at it from this angle. And they're like, oh man, I didn't even think about that. And that's something that I've gotten out of. Like I was telling you a few months ago, me and my business partner, Joseph, we started that weekly call, the Deal Room, Practice Your Pitch.
Yeah.
And we have gotten so much out of it, not monetarily, because it's totally free. We don't monetize off of it yet, but being able to help people through their problems and then get a message on WhatsApp or a text or an email like, hey, really appreciate the time you spent with me. You have no idea. I was ready to throw in the towel. I was ready to quit and go to get a job at Sheets or whatever. And you really gave me a different perspective. And I'm like, wow, like we're having impact on people's lives. It's not just, oh, that was a good nugget of information. Like you are impacting people's livelihoods and their decisions.
Sheets is good shit,
awesome.
By the way. Just like,
oh yeah,
yeah.
And
it's like a northern
they pay $18 an hour. Like, yeah, exactly.
Oh, really? But no, I mean, you know what? Like that, just what you said, it really struck me and hit me because I do, I love, like, I always think about like the democratization, of like wealth, of knowledge, of all of those things, to not be a gatekeeper. And then you got me thinking, like, as part of that stem from, like being a section leader and knowing that, like, okay, if I'm schwacked, right, then it's squad leader 1, squad leader 2, 3, and then it goes to like first team leader, second team leader, third. I mean, I wrote out our entire death plan for our section, like before we went out and rolled out on a mission. So like the last newest dude, like, hey, when all 11 of us are dead, you're in charge of you.
This is what you need to do to get home safe. You need to call.
Yeah.
Call the QRF. I am screwed.
But yeah, yeah, man. And it's interesting. You got me thinking about that. I'm going to be thinking about that on a while now. But then there's also another huge component. I think sometimes we have issues asking for help or assistance or guidance. I sent this dude a one pager for Shakker. We're about to, we're looking to do a round of funding. And I sent it to him and I said, hey, give me your honest feedback. This is new territory for me. Like, I've never been, and I think you got to get to a point where you're comfortable going up to people and saying like, hey, I did all of this, which is really cool. I've done a lot that most people can't do, but I have no fucking clue how to do this. Just humble yourself, have some humility. And because that's the thing too, man, people don't like to work with people that, when you tell somebody something and you share something with them and like, that they don't know, but they're like, oh, I know. Yeah, I know. Like, fuck that person. I don't want to work with that person.
Yeah.
And I have no problem being the person that says, fucking teach me,
Time out. What are you talking about? I have no clue. Yeah.
You have the knowledge, you have the information, I'm here for it, man. And
or you're hearing them and you're going along, you're like, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know it. Whoa. You just took a detour and I have no idea what that stands for. What does that mean? What does that stand for? Could you explain it? Oh yeah, sure. Not a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Almost like our entire podcast that we just did here. I've had people joke with me and they're like, you need to have subtitles or like, when something pop up whenever the guy says
acronyms.
Like PCS, like what the hell's PCS mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Because
we do.
A resource library.
We get a good number of people that listen to these that aren't military. They just, they love hearing us talk. And we got people all around the world. And one of my good buddies in England, he's like, dude, I love your guys' stories. He's like, I don't know why.
That's awesome.
But
that's awesome. And it's unique. I mean, it's like what we were talking about last week. You get so caught up in what you're doing on a regular basis that it's like, I don't think that I did anything special.
Yeah.
It's like I was telling you, my buddy out in Juneau called me up and asked me if I'd come out and be the guest speaker at the Marine Corps Ball. I went almost my entire career thinking, how cool would that be to have done something cool enough where someone's like, come be a guest speaker.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's one thing I didn't quite accomplish, is doing something cool enough to be a guest speaker. And then he called me and I was like, whoa, shit, really me? So how far down the list was I? Hey, never mind. I don't want to know. I got called. It doesn't matter. And then as I talk to people, I mean, Pittsburgh, there's a Air Force Reserve base and there's a Marine Reserve unit here, but it's not a big military town. So as we talk to people that our kids play sports with, or my wife works with, or whatever, and they ask, oh, so you retired from the military? I was like, yeah, I was in the Marine Corps for 20 years. And they're like, oh, what did you do? And I was like, I worked on helicopters. I did a few things. And my wife's like, okay, he's being humble. Like he did some cool stuff. And I was like, there's a lot of people, like I was not one of many that did it. There's a lot of people that did it. And I always talked it down. And my wife, one day we got home from a dinner and she's like, why do you do that? I was like, why do I do what? She's like, you always talk it down. Like, I don't really want to talk about it. Yeah. And she's like, does it bother you that much? I was like, I just don't think it's that special. Honestly, I don't. Like, I enlisted in the Marine Corps, like 120 other dudes that did when I went in. And when I retired from a unit that had, hundreds of Marines there. It's not like I retired and there's 6 of us in a closed door, like special unit or something. And she's like, you did some pretty special things. You know that, right? And I was like, I think I did some cool stuff. She pulled it up. She's like, Do you know the percentage of veterans in the United States? The percentage of adults that have worn the nation's uniform? I was like, no. She's like, 7% of adults in this country have worn the nation's uniform as veterans. 7? Holy shit. You know what percentage of adults are currently serving in the armed forces in the United States? 1%. I was like, damn. She's like, yeah, you've done something special. And then out of that 1% that are serving, how many of them did what you did? How many of them took that path, got to be at an embassy? She's like, you talked about like is a great thing, but you got to do a combat deployment. I was like, yeah, that's one of my bucket list items. I had to, special at that time period. And then you got to work in an embassy, 2 of them. Then you got to go to HM. I was like, okay, I see what you're saying. She's like, you should be proud. And like, talk about it. You don't need to brag about it, but share it with people. That's a story that could change people's decisions and viewpoints. And I was like, oh, well, okay, once again, she is right. And I need to listen. So,
but that's a thing too, man, that I think, a lot of us were in an odd way, because we're all like, yeah, we're fucking Marines, blah, blah, blah. But then when it comes to like talking about our shit, for the most part, like we're all pretty humble, quiet about it. And usually, like more times than not, it's the ones that are either like inflating their service or it's stolen valor. Right. Yeah. So that could be a reason too, also, plus also, no matter how cool like what you did is, there's just the vast majority of people aren't going to get it. Like for me, hearing like your story and what you did and, working with the White House and everything like that. Like I know as a Marine, like that's some pretty like high level ass shit. That's not just like, some dumb, PFC right out of boot camp, stumbles into, like I was talking with a dude about just Yankee White. Like just to be Yankee White. I'm gonna wrap this up here, man, because we could go on forever at this rate. But just like to put it in perspective, so like Yankee White in Paris Island, they took every 03 that was qualified. So every 03 had to have a ASVAB score over 50. I think that was it. And or maybe it was just every 03 in general. And so I don't even know how many of us there were, but they got us all in one big ass group together. And same 100, 200 guys. And the first question was like, who here's ever had a parking ticket? And I'm like, shit, if this is the bottom, like I'm not making it, But there was, one dude, and his name was Grassadino, and he like made the cut out of all the Marines there on Paris Island to even qualify to move on to the next interview for Yankee White. So it is something like that's pretty awesome. It's pretty prestigious. I knew a little bit when we talked on the phone because you talked a little bit about doing that detail. I didn't know about it, when we met up in New York, but yeah, it's super cool, man. And yeah, shit, like there's, there might even have to be a round 2 sometime of this. Just we didn't really touch on the business aspect of things and stuff, because I'd love to get, maybe we do something live on that one where we talk like for an hour or so and just answer people's questions and, like, hey man, I'm thinking about doing this, or like, what's the step here and all that stuff. So
that'd be great. I love that.
As we wrap up, do you have, any like nonprofits or anything you want to shout out, tell people to check out things that you're doing?
Sure. Thanks. So I have a lot of irons in the fire because we can never sit still. But so I'm on the board of a nonprofit that was started by actually one of my Marines that worked for me in Dublin, Ireland. His name is Dylan Nuttall, and he is the CEO of the Forgotten Stewardship. So it's a nonprofit that helps rural America communities take care of each other. So, for example, you live in middle of Kansas, the nearest roofer or carpenter may be 150 miles away and cost you $2,000 to come out and do a simple handrail because of the drive. So what the stewardship does, they go out there, they help fix that person's house, the handrail, the roof, whatever, and then they pull the community in together to show them and teach them how to do those repairs to help each other. So it's communities helping communities. It's a real big community builder. So I don't have the website pulled up, but if they just Google the Forgotten Stewardship, then they'll be able to find it.
I'll drop the link in the comments.
Okay.
In the description for this video. Yeah.
Awesome. And then my business partner and I, Joseph Kaskin, we host the Deal Room Practice Your Pitch every Wednesday night. After the new year, it'll probably change up a little bit Tuesday or Thursday, but we have a Facebook group called the Deal Room Practice Your Pitch and a LinkedIn group, same thing. And then we have a WhatsApp community.
We don't use that word here, dude. Yeah. LinkedIn. We don't use that word.
No, we got to get that page put up on Shakker for sure.
There you go.
So yeah, I gotta play around to figure out how to do a group on Shakker. But
yeah, we're gonna make that happen. But speaking of that, because I'm gonna start putting people's handles, because yours is Corey-Louton on Shakker. I'm gonna drop that. And then I'll get the Facebook group. I don't fuck with LinkedIn, but I'll get the Facebook group link from you, and I'll drop that in the comments on this thing also.
All right.
So and then, that's an invitation for people to reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also on Instagram as just at Corey-Louton, all one word. So
okay,
reach out, and I'd love to help out whoever needs help with whatever. Bring into our community. It's free. Come learn about real estate. If you want to be an active investor, we'll help you figure that out. If you want to be a passive investor, we have tools for that too. And I just want to connect with as many people as possible and help where I can.
I love it, man. Beautiful.
Thanks for having me on, man. This has been awesome. I can't wait for round 2. Now I'm excited.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason, man. I'm just, super glad that we met. It was an awesome time. And then, just us, I don't even remember what happened. We just started kind of talking again. Like a month or so had passed by. We started talking. You added me to the WhatsApp group, and we just did a phone call to catch up. And I'm just like, dude, I love the stories, man. I love hearing about these parts of the Marine Corps. And then what better way than for me to hear it than to have a platform where I can record it and others can hear all the cool shit that you did too. So appreciate you making the time, man. And there'll be a round 2 for sure.
Yeah. I love, and one quick last thing, that one of my favorite things about talking about stuff like this with other people is when I get to have young Marines hear about it, because I wasn't told about all the cool shit that you can do when I came in the Marine Corps. You weren't told. They keep that as a secret because they want you to be just right there working for them, especially when you get a good Marine. You don't want to let them go. So being able to educate younger Marines or Marines that are still on their journey and active duty on like, hey, there's a whole vast world of the Marine Corps that you can do and experience. So there's some cool billets out there. But yeah, definitely have to be around 2.
Yeah, I mean, I just learned about it today. I'm going to, when we get off here, I'm going to go see if I can re-enlist and go do some cool shit like you.
You're going to have to cut that beard.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get a waiver for this, So, awesome, man. We appreciate you so much coming on, Corey. And to everybody out there, we wouldn't. Yeah, actually, I would keep doing this if it wasn't for you guys. But because I love it. I'm selfish. I love the stories. I love meeting guys like Corey and hearing his story. But we love you all that give us your love and your support. And feel free, reach out. I'll drop the link so you can check out everything Corey's doing. And you can always download our app, Shakker, for free as well. Reach out to us directly.
Go download it now.
Download it now. Corey said it, right? So that's an order from the Gunny. So, until next time, Semper Fi.
Thanks.